drums over to the left over there. I think they're practicing. Here is the rally. Didn't start just yet, about 10 minutes till 12. Hey, can I get you guys too? The water out here. I'm just gonna sit you guys down real quick. I want to adjust a couple things. Also need to share this out to the Woke stream. It's the Woke Discord. Let's see here. Hey guys, welcome to the stream. The event is starting in about 6 minutes here. We're just getting started, getting set up and everything like that. It looks. Just trying to get the stream up to the network here. Let's engage. That's okay. Y'all good?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
They're all good now.
Yeah.
They're like, no, everybody leave.
I have a 10-foot space. Oh, there's a march over there. Excuse me?
step aside in case you need to. Racial Justice Organizing Committee, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to ask you all to start filling in into the middle. Hey! Tatiana!
I'm an organizer. I've been told them. Yes.
Start filling.
When we got laid off,
Some of them are
and I look at them and that's my student at 6.
this is when I'm getting this picture myself that called
Excuse me. Awesome. Great sign. Do you guys want to get next to it?
No, I think we should wait and invite
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
yeah, but I don't Baby, I'm just gonna ask audio.
Beep, boop, boop, boop. Hey y'all! I said hey y'all! Okay. Thank y'all for coming out. Y'all look beautiful today. Thank you so much. Love to see it. We're gonna get started with the chant. Is that okay? I said we're gonna get started with the chant. Is that okay? What do we want? When do we want it? Let's switch it up real quick, okay? Because we're here for a very specific reason. We know we want justice, and we're going to talk about what kind of justice we want. What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. So sorry about that. Let's take it back. Is that okay? I said let's bring it back real quick. Is that okay? What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Police-free schools. When do we want it? Now. And if we don't get it, shut it down. And if we don't get it, shut it down. No, if we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. Thank y'all so much. And shout out to Mad Beats to the left, holding us down on the drum. We're here today in a moment in a pandemic, right? To re-examine what kind of world we've been sitting in, what kind of conditions we've been sitting in, right? Sitting in schools that are hot with no AC, right? Educators and young people under-resourced and under-supported. Parents left out of the loop with what's happening in their schools to their children. And we're here to say that we don't want that shit anymore, right? We don't want that shit anymore, right? I'm going to start off today by introducing an amazing young person to my left. Please show some love for our youth MC today, who I'm going to let introduce herself.
Hey y'all. Alright, so I'm Davina. I'm a PhD student in your pharmacy.
Period. And why are you here today, Davina? What do you believe in?
You know, police-free schools, being able to be comfortable within our school and our community. Here we go here.
So today we have a long and exciting, but not too long, Kiki, because it's hot out. We have a long and exciting program today. But first, let's give a shout out to our PSU members holding it down. Here, week after week, right? When school shut down, our young people said, you know what? That's not going to deter me from thinking about what are the conditions in this world. If I have to get the education virtually, I'm going to show up. If I have to be on a phone call, I'm going to show up. So please send some extra love to our amazing young people today. And we know you all came out here, right, to support these young people because you believe in youth leadership, black and brown youth leadership. So give a shout out to yourselves. We want to send a special love, right? Because this shit is hard. Coming out every day, day after day, looking at these issues, right? That's trauma. The situations that we're sitting in are trauma, right? But we're here anyway. So we want to shout out some orgs who we know are rapping today. Give it up for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Give it up for the Black Philly Radical Collective. We got Herb Ed Advocates. The Our City Our Schools Coalition. Youth Art and Self-Empowerment Project. And I know, y'all know it's some badass educators out here, right? Y'all know it's some badass educators out here, right? Let's give love to the Racial Justice Organizing Committee and the Men's Community for Justice right here with us too. So I'm going to stop speaking, right, because in our tradition, we really want to listen to young people and really uplift youth leadership. So I'm going to bring up a young person who comes every day with that fire on the mic. Are y'all ready? Give it up for Kalia Power!
Hi everybody. So today I am here to give you guys sort of a little speech for why I think we deserve police-free schools. My name is Kalia Powers. I am a rising junior at Science Leadership Academy at Beaver, and also a member at the Philadelphia Student Union. I am here today to speak on why our cities need love, not police in our schools and communities, and to share why we are calling for police-free schools. This year marks our 25th anniversary of youth-led organizing for high-quality education. This fight is a new beginning to reimagine what our schools can look like in the next 25 years. Policing in schools, I honestly don't know where to start. Supposedly, having police in schools are supposed to make students feel safe and secure, yet they only make us feel like criminals. School should be a place of learning, not fear. I should be able to walk in the halls freely and not feel scared of being arrested or hurt by a school police officer. In 2016, our PSU member that went to Ben Franklin High School was assaulted by a school police officer when trying to go to the bathroom. He had to ask a school police officer to open the bathroom for him. He was denied that service because he did not have a hall pass. He was assaulted for trying to use it. Hearing about this situation as a young black student, it frustrates and angers me. The thought of being hurt or even going to the bathroom, I wouldn't even know what to do in that situation. During a global pandemic, we saw that the police were still killing innocent black people without cause or reasoning. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor are just a few names I can come up with, are just people we know have been murdered. I went to a protest here in Philly on Black Lives Matter, and shortly after, I and a friend were attacked by a police officer because we called for them to stop beating a black man in the middle of the street and were threatened with a baton in our face. I was broken down and crying on the ground right in front of our school district. Rather than having police in our schools, let guidance counselors help and heal the students that they feel are a threat to our schools, their peers or themselves. They are technically still here to protect us. By helping those that are hurting, I can personally say that my guidance counselor has helped me through a lot. As a person that has depression and anxiety, she has always made me feel more comfortable and helped me calm down. That is better than any police officer I've ever met. They don't want to sit and talk to you, they just want to intimidate black students. And every board member on the Philadelphia School Board can say they are here to keep us safe, but they only make me feel like I'm in danger. Nobody should have to walk in fear. And please, don't try to say that police aren't only in black community schools, because they are. If you were to go to a school in the suburbs, there would probably be slim to none in those schools. So why do we, the black community, always have to be over-policed? I know the reason why. It's because we're labeled as thugs, criminals, and thieves. I don't want police roaming the halls. I want people that can really help, that understand young people, such as nurses that can help heal that can help hurt students and help students to get better. And guidance counselors that truly understand young people and the things we go through, because they went to school for it. They went to school to understand how we think, how we feel, and to read our body language so that they can help us both mentally and physically. This right here is why PSU exists, because young people like us believe in fighting for our schools and communities, to have the love and support that we need. We want the $31 million that they spend on the school police officers reallocated to more nurses and guidance counselors so students can truly get the help that they deserve. Thank you.
That's right, Kyle. Give it up again for Kalia Power! Right, so as Kalia said, right, our our youth picked this location for a reason. Our youth said we want to be at Love Park because that is what our city and our country and our world needs. That is what we don't have right now in this pandemic and in this moment, right? We're losing love, we're losing trust, we're losing empathy for one another, right? Because of the conditions that we're stuck in, right? So please send love to our young people, right, and the leadership that we want to see. Woo. Right, and this fight for police-free schools and abolition, right? We're not just talking about high schools anymore or elementary schools. There are folks who are also taking this fight to their college campuses, right? Because we know when we talk about city police, we have to talk about campus police, who are just as, if not more, oppressive to these communities. So coming up next, give it up for Chris Rogers.
What up, y'all? I'm a student too. Just a little bit older. So, I want to begin, bring my ancestors into the room. I want to offer this quote from Angela Davis. When children attend schools that place a greater value on discipline and security than on knowledge and intellectual development, they are attending prep schools for prison. Y'all hear that? Shout out to Angela Davis, black feminist, communist, one of my role models. So I'm Chris Rogers. I'm in education. I study at the University of Pennsylvania. The University of Pennsylvania, which openly brags about how it has the largest private police department in Pennsylvania, the third largest nationwide. You can boo. Please boo. I'm here to tell you that this entirely well-funded operation, flush with cash, even maintaining its own SWAT team, and we saw that SWAT team on 52nd Street on May 31st. And we still need accountability around that. We was up in West Philly talking about that yesterday. It does not create safety on our campus. Our sexual violence statistics on campus speak to that across our students, graduate students, staff, faculty, workers. Sexual violence is still widespread across Penn campuses. And the police does nothing about that. The way we invest in police does nothing about that. So if you're really about safety, let's think about how sexual violence, particularly for our gender oppressed, queer and trans folks on our campus, is a problem. So I'm here with a group called Free Penn, and we're here to let y'all know that it won't stand in our names. All right? So University of Pennsylvania, right, this institution built on stolen lands, founded with the profits of stolen labor, right? They like to send us emails, right? And like I was saying, that they remind us of like a multinational corporation, right? They have more more similarity with like a Comcast than they do to the schools that our ancestors fought to build across the South in this country. So when you think about public education in this country, you know that black people were there and started it, right? But that's not what that's not what Penn's about, right? Penn, they send you things like, oh, we believe that Black Lives Matter, but what they don't tell you, right, is that their real estate development, their work around University City has displaced the Black Bottom, right? Y'all remember the Black Bottom? Y'all know that history? So I want to make a connection with the Black Bottom, right? So I'm gonna tell y'all about another school, a school that some of y'all might remember, some of y'all might have went to, University City High School. Y'all remember University City High School? All right, so University City High School, right? In the 70s, Penn and Drexel said they wanted to start a new high school in the city, right? But they wanted to make it just like Penn Alexander is, right? This place with like privileged, affiliated, like only selective admission. And the community, the bottom, fans who they got up and fought back and said, no, this school's gonna be for everyone, right? Because that's what we gotta do, fist up, fight back. So what did Penn and Drexel do? They cut all their money from this university, right? They said, we don't want the community to determine how we invest in the community, right? And this is how they do it across the city, whether it's the Meta Center or these other spaces. They want control of what the funds support, right? They don't want community voices to be held accountable for the wealth and the resources that they have. So, University City High School, we fast forward a couple decades later, we know that there's a mural on University High School which tells the story of how Penn and Drexel displaced the Black Bottom, right? But budget cuts, 2013, that school is closed. Then you got Brandywine Realty Trust, these realtors, right? They come up with this scheme, please book. Because Brandywine Realty Trust, this multi-billion-dollar real estate operation, also funds the Philly Police Foundation, right? So you see this connection between realty and the police, developers, real estate, and the police. So they come in, University City High School is demolished, they turn into a beer garden for a couple of years, right? Right? And now they're saying they're going to put 2 new schools there, right? But this is part of this new $3.5 billion development scheme that we know will continue to displace Black West Philly and not provide, and they say they want to provide new tech jobs. But look at our public schools. What resources do we have for that? Do we have computer labs with the latest technology? So who's going to come in and get those jobs? We know this is displacement, right? So I'm saying this because we got to make connections between who the police are around here, right? It's not just the people out here in the uniforms, right? It's not the people out here on these bikes. It's also these real estate developers, right? These two systems work together. They're trying to turn Germantown High School into a bunch of condos. You got to make connections between that, right? So what we do at Police Free Penn is make these connections, right? Say, look at the way that this $14 billion institution can just run ramshot all over West Philadelphia and do what it wants and not be held accountable. And we're not going for it. And we're not going for it. Let me get back to my book. So we got a couple ideas about what could be next, right? And my folks at Penn for Pilots, they came together to say, Penn needs to pay payments in lieu of taxes. Pilots. They put up a number, $36.4 million to invest into this city. Every year to the Education Equity Fund. It's only 40% of what the property taxes would be. It's the beginning. We got to get better than that too. 36 million might not be enough because, as Penn for Pilot states, if Penn moves up its endowment spending just 2%, 2% is at 5% now, 2% of a $14 billion institution, a company, that's $232 million that can be invested in the city of Philadelphia, invested in our community. So we got to make these connections. So shout out for Penn for Pilots. They're also part of our demand. And lastly, I want to say that even our name, right, Police Free Penn, comes out of a direct connection to the work that was laid down by the Philadelphia Student Union. Philadelphia Student Union, the students that are here, the students that have been here over the years, laid the framework for the Police Free Schools movement. I need y'all to understand that this is a national thing. Their report, the We Came to Learn report, is the action kit that goes along with that. We as graduate students, as college students, been learning how to use y'all tools, the tools that y'all built for our fight. So I want to say, like, y'all are at the front of this movement, keep leading it. We're excited to be in solidarity with y'all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to our comrade Chris Rogers for breaking that down, right? We're here for a reason, right? We're here for a reason, right? We're here because we know what our young people deserve. We know that our ancestors, right, the indigenous folks on this country, right, they made decisions for conditions that could be better for us, right? And we want to continue that tradition. This is about looking forward, not looking back, and not accepting the okie doke that these decision makers give to us, right? Like Chris said, young people for years, have been sitting in classrooms, in neighborhoods, right, in libraries, in buildings where they hear a narrative that young people are not cared about, that young people are seen as threats, that young people can't have access to power, that young people can be tokens for adults to use when they want to use their own agenda. And we're saying we're not doing that anymore, right? And we have to really think intentionally about this moment that we're in right now. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Folks are losing their lives. Folks don't feel safe. Folks don't have what they need. Decision makers are thinking about reopening schools. reopening schools where they know students barely have soap in the bathroom every day or toilet paper. What kind of contradiction is that? They tell us, well, what? Well, police, don't they keep us safe? What if something bad happens? We've been adding more police into our schools since Columbine, since community violence and gun violence issues have shown up. They've added more police over the last 20 years. We have nothing to show in terms of progress for safety except millions of students and black students in the school to prison pipeline. And that is not acceptable. When we look across that street, right, we've been in these streets for the last few months, saying that what happened in Minneapolis, what happened in Louisville, what's been happening all over the country that affects us, the state-sponsored violence that is inflicted on us, right? We're saying that that shit is not acceptable. If we look across the street where Frank Rizzo used to be, right? We think about the history in Philadelphia. In 1967, when we think about how history repeats, young people then, during the civil rights era, walked out of their schools for the same shit that we're fighting for today. This is an opportunity to really continue transforming. The same way we got rid of fucking Frank Rizzo, we need to get rid of his culture and his legacy. The racism, the terrorism, right? So we're going to continue this march. We're going to take it to family courts, right? To continue talking about the ways that young people are policed and how in this moment we have the opportunity to change and to fight for them. So we're going to march. We ask folks, right, in the tradition of following youth leadership, to please line up behind our students who are going to be carrying their banners, who are going to be lining up here. We ask if you were signed up as a marshal to please help us because we're taking over the streets because we're not taking this shit anymore. So if you are a marshal, please help us take over the streets.
So folks can please line up behind our banner. Line up behind the banner. If there's other folks to join, if you don't want to get up here, go join them. But please line up behind the banner. Mind yourself safe.
Alright, we got our young folks with the banner. We're taking it to the streets.
Thanks, man.
Please safely follow the marshals as we shut down the streets. What do we
Sorry about that. I'm going backwards.
about some issues that are pertaining children in the Philadelphia court system, and to also bring up a story of my own. When I was 12, a friend and I were walking home from school and decided to get some pizza. As we were walking, a police officer yelled at us to stop. We were confused. We wanted to go home. The police officer asked us to drop our bags and dump everything out, causing a mess on the lawn that we were at. He asked my friend why she was hanging out with me. And the final nail in the coffin was when he said, "You need to stay away from her. I don't want you corrupting her and becoming a drug addict like you." I was 12. Although this was my story, this is not a shock to children in the Philadelphia area. In Philadelphia alone, black kids are 3 times more likely to be arrested than their white peers. Black girls are 4 times more likely to be suspended and arrested more than white girls. Undocumented students are also facing impact by school policing and face the fears of interaction, resulting in being deported and separated from their families. According to the school district, in the last school year, 6,000 plus calls were made to the school police on young children, the majority of the calls being disorderly conduct. There are 1,000 calls on students for police, and currently 100 youth are currently in juvenile detention camps right now. We have sat in meetings for weeks with decision makers who have told us that they believe in working with the youth. We have sat in meetings for weeks with decision makers who have told us that they believe in working with the youth and parents and families and want to listen to us. But when we tell them our stories of being intimidated or assaulted by police, that they don't make us feel safe, they don't believe us and tell us that our city isn't ready. Why are we waiting for them? We're tired of waiting for them. Why should generations continue to starve waiting for change to come that never shows up or doesn't stay for long? Having police in schools is a way to train the kids to get used to a prison-like system everywhere they go. Walking to the bus, catching the train station to go to school, and now arriving at school. Students need more police now than ever before. Why do young people have to normalize policing everywhere we go, even during a pandemic? Police have used violence to enforce social distancing before. What will happen if then we have to go back to school? A 15-year-old girl by the name of Grace in Michigan was sent to juvenile detention during the coronavirus pandemic for not doing her schoolwork. When a young person does any little thing, they are assaulted and brutalized. They are told that they will deserve whatever happens to them. This culture is especially worse for Black students, Latinx students, queer and trans students, and we must always talk about the undocumented youth. This culture is especially worse for Black students, Latinx students, queer and trans students, and we must always talk about the undocumented youth who, if they interact with a student officer, the biggest risk is being wrongfully deported and separated from their families. The school-to-prison pipeline and the school-to-deportation pipeline will always exist with police officers in our schools. And it will always exist when there are policies that allow for natural youth behaviors to be misidentified as crimes. Why is it? Why is it that police violence justified? Why is police violence justified for Black people, especially for Black youth, for any little thing? Why is there no trust for young people's stories and their voices? Because of this culture of not trusting and protecting our people, young people see this ultimate result. What happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others have been murdered ruthlessly for no reason. Their murders made us come out here to the streets during a global health pandemic. Their murders show that police provide the opposite of safety, and their deaths join the long list of others impacted by police violence, especially our youth. Tamir Rice would have been the graduating class of 2020 this year. Ayanna Stanley-Jones would have been a part of the graduating class of 2020 this year. Trayvon Martin would have been 25 this year. And so many more. Antoine Rose, Jordan Davis, Mike Brown, Khalif Broder, and the list goes on and on. Thank you. For all lives that have been taken by police this year and every other year. Would you please raise your fist with us? Stand for 3 minutes. These lives will not be forgotten. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for sending love to tonight's building. Right, so we're going to continue this march, but we wanted to stop here in this moment because as we think about what we want in the future, we can never forget the lives who should still be on this earth with us. We must never forget the folks, the young people killed, right? The people who have been locked up, our political prisoners who are in jail for doing what our young people are doing right now in this moment. We must never forget the people who have sacrificed their lives, not by choice, right? Our folks have been forced to become martyrs of this movement, and every time we get one, we must commit to not having any other family suffer that same fate. We must always uplift them, we must always say their names, right? And use their legacy to continue empowering us to step out in this moment, to step out on faith, to step out in fear. It is courageous to say that you want something to exist that doesn't exist yet. That is courage. And it is courage. And it is courage to say that, you know what? Something that I want to exist isn't there yet, but I'm going to put in the work to make sure it's right. I'm not going to keep letting folks who don't care about us making decisions and profiting off of our trauma. Profiting off of schools that have bugs and roaches in them, but then turn around and say, young person, why don't you want to be president? Why don't you want to come to school? They say we have school dropouts. Man, we have school push-outs. These schools push their young people out of school. So as we continue marching, just know, right? This moment is beautiful. It is beautiful, and it is also serious. We are doing serious commitment work, right? These movements that have been happening over the last few years, right? They die out at some point slowly because the status quo goes back to telling us to go to work, go back to school. It's because they don't want us out here sending this heat. Are we going to send it? Are we going to send them this heat? I don't know. It sounds a little chilly right now. Are we going to send them this heat? All right, so again, our young people, follow and trust youth leadership.
lead the way. If you're an adult, please follow them.
Hold up.
And we're lining up in the streets. We're not letting these cars get in here, all right? All right, are we ready? Are we ready?
Woo!
Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets.
Fill in behind our banners, please. Put this together.
Fill in behind the banners, please. All right, fill it up. You ready? Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose schools? Our streets. Whose
Oh boy.
Did you get the contact information for getting cops out of school?
I am winded. Excuse me.
I know that we've been doing some march chanting. Could we do some standstill chanting or something? Standstill chanting? Okay, let's try it on with it. What do we want? Police-free schools! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Police-free schools! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Police-free schools! What do we want? Now! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And if we don't get us, shut it down! And what do we want? Police-free schools! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Police-free schools! What do we want? Now! Up and up in the sun! Test 1, 2, 1, 2, test 1, 2.
All right. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Y'all look beautiful out here today. So we're gonna have some more speakers, right? As we continue talking about what our schools and our communities need to look like, right? We're out here, your signs look beautiful. Defund school to prison pipeline, beautiful. Police-free schools, beautiful. Right, we're here in a pandemic because we believe in young people, right? We're here because we believe in young people, right? All right, so with no further hesitation, I'm gonna bring up another amazing and iconic student, right? A young person who's been with us for the last few years and have been sitting, right, in these schools, assessing and evaluating, right, who's gonna bring some fire. So please give it up for this young person, Zion Brooks.
Hey y'all. So similar to my other amazing, courageous youth speakers that we had, I am both SLA Bieber student and APSU member. But unlike those amazing speakers, I didn't always go to SLA Bieber. Prior to attending that school, I went to Parkway Northwest, which is another amazing special needs school, amazing teachers. They good. So going to that school, I can only say for the first 2 weeks because the extreme police presence was like something I've never seen before. It was incredibly uncomfortable for me. So within 2 weeks, I had to leave and I switched to SLA Bieber. The schools are incredibly similar as far as like the expectations for their students. They're both special ed, they're both amazing schools. The only difference is the student demographic. Parkway Northwest has a bigger black and brown student population, which means a bigger police presence, according to them. According to them, because Parkway has more black and brown students, they need more police. Why? Are my peers at SLA Bieber less violent than the students? No. So today I'm here because we need to
look through the lens and remodel what a safe, healthy, organized school environment looks like. Currently, our public schools are understaffed, lack representation for students of color, dirty, unsafe, and uncomfortable. All of the schools. And instead of re-examining the systems that allow for this extreme police presence, the school board likes to ignore the voices of the youth they claim to care so much about, and compare our struggles. And a school board meeting the other day, I was told that my experience as a black woman with police wasn't enough to get them out of schools because I go to one of those special schools. I go to one of those special schools, right? And instead, they choose to waste $30 million on police, but spend only $18 million on psychologists, $21 million on counselors, $34 million on nurses, but no investment into us, into the youth, into our health, into our happiness, and into our futures. With the murders of so many black and brown people in the midst of a global pandemic that took the lives and financial stability of many families, in September, students will return to school extremely traumatized. And when they return to schools, they will lack psychologists, nurses, and counselors. Instead, they will be greeted with those same police that they fought so hard to protect. Ignore my voices, ignore our voices, and decide to protect these police officers instead of us. They're planning on sending us right back into these toxic environments that are going to be made even worse with COVID-19. We're reminded that we don't matter to them. Our happiness doesn't matter. Our mental health doesn't matter. Our safety doesn't matter. What we want doesn't matter to them. If it mattered, they will be doing something to make sure we have clean schools. They will be doing something about the asbestos in our buildings. They'll be doing something to make sure our classrooms aren't overcrowded. They make sure our schools actually have air conditioning that works. They want to be spending money on police officers and more comfy uniforms. How can the school district of Philadelphia talk about reopening schools during the pandemic when prior to the moment our schools would go days without soap, toilet paper, and soap and toilet paper in their bathrooms? If they reopen schools, they'll be forcing us to choose between our education and our health. In most schools in our city, there's only one nurse and one counselor for hundreds of students. Imagine hundreds of students having to compete for the help and resources that they need throughout the school day. We can't allow this to happen. We can't allow this culture to continue to be normalized. That's it. Thank you.
Let's give it up again for Zion. Right, so like Zion said, these decision makers are trying to tear our students apart, trying to divide and conquer, trying to send them to underprivileged schools to compete with one another for resources. But there's no need to compete because we can fight to all have it, right? We can fight to all have it, right? Right, and we're not going to let haters who are showing up to try to distract from this protest either. We're going to keep it locked and focused on our young people, right? We're going to keep it locked and focused on our young people, right? So like Zion said, right, allegedly, there isn't enough support for police-free schools. That's what we're hearing from some adults who don't believe in us, some decision makers, right? I don't know, but when I look at y'all, I see the opposite. I see folks showing up because we know we can have better things than police in our schools. So we're going to keep this thing running smoothly, so we're going to bring up another young person. Okay, so actually we're gonna do a chance so we can get some more mics. What do we want? When do we want it? Yeah. What do we want?
Police-free schools!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Police-free schools!
When do we want it?
Now!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
If we don't get it?
Shut it down!
If we don't get it?
Shut it down!
What do we want?
Police-free schools!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Police-free schools!
When do we want it?
Now!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
All right, beautiful. So let's give it up. Our next young person coming to the stage is from Herb Ed Advocate. Give it up for Hakeem holding it down.
First, I want to thank PSU for allowing us to stand beside y'all on this march today. We are here with y'all in the fight. We'll continue to be. My name is Hakeem Pierre. I'm one of the student leaders for Herb Ed. We are a student-led, for student by student organization and focused on advocating. And we are here with our coinciding demands, like I said, to stand by PSU to ensure the health and safety of our students. We've been here too many times, blatantly showing that the police abuse and brutalize the black and brown communities and youth nationally and in Philadelphia, and it's now time for change. We as Philadelphia youth have been walking out at every march, have been standing at every protest, have been participating at every event, and protesting at every board meeting. But this time is different. We will no longer allow our district and board to uplift the police, but not teachers and counselors and students. We will no longer watch our district secure funding for their jobs while our buildings fall apart. We are calling on Dr. Hite and the school board to completely reimagine school safety and create a police-free school environment. The model we have now isn't suitable for our students. This is a state of emergency. We demand for the release of the SROs and the implementation of a new hire process searching for diverse individuals with strong local community connections. We demand that the new plan considers health over discipline. How does the district claim they need to keep students safe with infestations of lead and mold in elementary schools? We also demand the removal of policy 805 and all zero tolerance policies. To my fellow students, I'm sorry you have to go back into this next year, but I promise you we'll continue to fight for you and we'll continue to march. And to our leaders, to our board members, please keep in mind that one day your life will be in our hands.
Give it up again for Hakeem from Herb Ed. That's right, we're here to fight together, right? And when we talk about what we're fighting for in our schools, we know we want police out of schools, right? We know we want counselors and nurses and educators fully supported, right? We also got to talk about what's up with our curriculum. Why aren't our people reflected in the curriculum? Why isn't the whole truth told in our curriculum? Why don't we have enough black and brown educators in the curriculum? So we're going to bring another beautiful young person up here to talk, who's going to talk about how young people are fighting for black lives and black rights in schools. Please give it up for Jalen.
Hello, everyone. It honestly feels so good to be here with you all right now. Like, I feel loved, and I feel supported, and I feel heard, for sure. But we're not in this big, beautiful group like this. A lot of times, it's harder for myself and my peers, my other black brothers and sisters to feel like this, and that's the issue. And I think that our city, and more specifically, the schools in this city need some help, okay? Because this completely breaks my heart. So my school, well, my old school, I just graduated, class of 2020. So my my high school, Penn Charter, has always encouraged me to let my life speak and lead a life that makes a difference. So, therefore, my group, which is called Youth for Black Lives, look at my shirt. My group, Youth for Black Lives, is hosting a march on Sunday, August 12th, and we're going to start at the Art Museum. So this is going to be a space for our black and brown students and their friends and families and supporters and allies to support the 5 demands that we're advocating for. Now, these demands correlate with the acronym YOUTH. So first, we have yield community resources. We don't want the police to get more money. We want more resources in our communities, in our schools. And next, we want opportunities for education. Within those schools, we need those resources that I was talking about. My experience at Penn Charter is so much more different than my black brothers and sisters' experiences at different public schools and schools that are under this building behind me. And they're not free, and it makes me sad. So my experience should not be heightened because I go to a school with more white people than my other black brothers and sisters at other schools that don't have the same opportunity. Now next, we have you. Use your right to vote. As the class of 2020, a lot of us are just turning 18, already turned 18, about to turn 18. We have to use our voices and our voice in the political realm because these people are making the decisions for us. So we need to not vote for people like, I'm not even going to name it, but we're not even going to vote for these celebs that are coming out of nowhere, trying to, some political hoax, I don't even know what's going on. But we need to use our votes and use them wisely. Don't take this as a joke, okay? Now next, we have tell the whole story. Now this one is a demand that hits close to home because for me to hear the whole story about really important events like Juneteenth and like the MOVE bombing in our own city, I had to opt into a course called American Studies at my predominantly white institution, in which only 20 out of my 112 class got to hear about redlining and all the things that have been hindering us as a race, as black and brown students since I don't even know when, before I was a thought. And it really just makes me sad. So we really need to tell the whole story in our curriculums, and we really need to get this whitewashed narrative of history out of here. So finally, our last demand is housing for students. Safe, affordable housing for our students. And this is more specifically college students that are living on their own without their parents. They need safe, affordable housing, okay? We are tired of having students have to drop out of school and do all these other things and not focus on getting grades, getting the grades that they need to get the degrees that they need to go on and get the money that they need, okay? And we are just so tired of hearing things like asbestos and the lead in different areas and things like that, things that are hurting our health. How are we supposed to go out there and get the grades that we need to get these degrees that we need to succeed when we can't even breathe correctly? It just hurts me. It really does. So that housing is our last and final demand, and that's why one of our really close partners is the St. Joe's House that provides housing for affordable housing for some 20-something college students. Thank you. So, the Youth for Black Lives group supports the Police Free Schools campaign because having the criminalization of students in school communities and the school-to-prison pipeline subjects these brown and black bodies to police brutality, and it makes me sad. So that's why my group, Youth for Black Lives, supports the Police Free Schools campaign, and we are so happy for the Philadelphia Student Union and Racial Justice Organizing for helping us and being able to partner with us so we can support all of you, because I know that you are supporting us as well. So we really want to see you all on August 2nd, and thank you for being out here with these other youth. Thank you, Jalen. All right. Oh, Lord.
All right, back again.
like Jalen said, right, this is about coming together. Because for all these past few years, especially this school year, we've been separated. We've had to socially distance. We've been taken out of the areas that we're used to seeing each other and talking to each other. And we know in this moment, right, we're taking that power back and coming together like Jalen said. We're standing together with educators, with parents, with community members, with organizers, and we're trusting youth leadership. So next to come up, right, because what we're talking about is love and healing and transforming the toxic culture, not just physically, but socially and mentally in our schools and emotionally. We have to understand that this is an opportunity, right, to not keep punishing students for social conditions that they didn't create, to stop punishing students for resources that they're not even invited in the room to make decisions on. We can only do that through healing, through love, through restorative justice. So we're going to bring up an expert, right, who has done this work in Philadelphia. An amazing Black woman who's been in this city, who's trained me on restorative justice, has trained PSU, right, and is a perfect and prime example of the work that we can do as a community to change our schools and take them back. So please send love to Dr. Madi coming up.
Y'all, peace and love. If it is in your heart, in your mind, please repeat after me. Young people, like all people, want to feel safe, want to feel seen, want to feel recognized, want to feel like they belong, and want to feel like someone believes in their capacity to grow. So as uncertain and grief-ridden as these times are, it's also super exciting to see so much people power build around abolition and transformative restorative justice in this moment. So wrap it up for these young people, their leadership, for you all for coming down into the streets and for standing in that truth, even as that's a contradiction. And so I want us to also feel that contradiction in this moment and just take a moment to be, to breathe, to really take stock of all the wisdom and the experiences that our young people shared today, of all of the demands. Really take a moment to feel the rage of this space, the rage within. And if it feels okay in your body, I want to ask us to take 3 collective breaths. And on that 3rd breath, we're going to hold our breath just for 3 seconds so we can do a nice sort of deep cleanse of our inside. So as you're ready, you can take a big breath through your nose and a deep exhale out. A big breath through the nose and an even bigger exhale out. And a real big breath in and hold for 1, 2, 3, big exhale out. So this kind of deep breathing, this kind of nourishment to our parasympathetic nervous system, which is just a part of the nervous system that helps to give us that sense of calm, right, within and really tap into our own medicine, allows for the internal conditions of our mind and our body to get ready for growing our imagination. That's right. And Sean Ginwright in Black Youth Rising reminds us that violence and the violence of oppression, the violence of trauma, it shrinks the imagination. So I just want to talk just for a moment about the specific ways that this violence exists, right? Yes. When we think about school violence, we might think about children fighting. But we have to push ourselves to think about why they fight. It is the neglect encouraged by white supremacy and anti-blackness. It is the fears and hatred born from transphobia and sexism. It is the scarcity created by capitalism, imperialism, and perhaps the most dangerous one, the laziness of liberalism. And so it's schools struggle to imagine safe schools without police. Despite the fact that we know what we've heard today, that police bring more violence into schools, either by being violent themselves or quote-unquote being good cops who simply stand quiet as they watch the aggression of their colleagues. So say it with me. Police don't keep schools safe.
Police don't keep schools safe.
But we know what does.
But we know what does.
Toxic-free buildings.
Toxic-free buildings.
Quality resources.
Quality resources.
Culturally relevant curriculum for academic engagement. That's why you got it. We can walk on and shoot them at the same time. It's nutritious food and recreational activity. It's adults collectively committing to building radical relationships with students, with families, and community members. Where again, they feel safe, they feel seen, they feel like they belong, and they feel as though their communities believe in their capacity to grow. My challenge to you in that is to specifically think about what does it take for our Black trans girls to feel safe, to feel seen. Because when we can imagine safety for them, our most vulnerable and attacked students, we can imagine safety for all of our students. And because I believe in the people power of this space that is continuing to build in Philadelphia and around the country and around the world, I believe we will win PSU's demand for more resources for restorative justice. And I want us to be ready for when we win. I want us to be ready to step into those roles and to understand that we are not cops by another name, right? That we are doing something different and imagining something different around safety. So to close out, I want to give you a little bit of homework. I am a teacher. And I also want to close out with a short story. The first assignment is to develop a healing and safety plan for yourself. And so you might already have one, but if that's new language for you, then that is essentially you writing down what are the things that trigger your own fears, what are the things that trigger or make conflict and dealing conflict difficult, what are the things that might sort of trigger rage or depression, what are the things that you know, because you are the expert of your own experience and in your own body, what are the things that are also going to help keep you whole and connected and come back to your center? Yes. Who are the people that can also help bring you there? Writing that down creates a plan for when those feelings and when those sort of rages or depressions sort of happen, recognizing that they happen, right? Because we live in a traumatizing, broken world. And so we have to plan for that. The second thing with that, particularly for our teachers, is to continue to use that practice with your students, working with your counselors to help them to understand their own trauma, their own triggers, and their own sort of internal and external support systems that can help them sort of engage in conflict and still be safe. Because conflict is going to happen. But it's how we move through that that determines the level of growth and the level of love that we can all still experience. And secondly, we gotta read. We gotta read, right? And so reading about the specific stories of transformative justice, the testimonials of people who have done accountability processes that did not rely on a justice that was rooted in revenge and punishment, but really sort of was rooted in healing and accountability, that takes skill and that takes capacity building. And so reading about the specific stories from here in Philly, give thanks to Philly Stands Out for sort of lifting up this early work years ago. Reading the stories from Chicago, reading the stories from Oakland. Folks have been finding healing and accountability outside of the police and prison. And so the list of books that I want folks to sort of write down, and hopefully you got your phone next to you. You have Beyond Survival. Okay? It's a new book that came out that also lifts up Philly Stands Up's work. The Revolution Starts at Home. Fumbling Towards Repair. Emergent Strategy. Okay? pretty much any resource or article that you can find on the Bay Area Transformative Justice Collective. Mia Mingus has been doing amazing work around creating pods that again are using community resources to have courageous conversations. And every single curriculum that Mariam Kaba has written and made free and available online through Project Mia. And that is a resource that is specifically for teachers that you can use whether you are virtual or whether you are doing one-on-one mentorship with your young people. So here's the story. For 3 years, I worked on an alternative high school in Kensington where many students went after being pushed out from other schools for fighting. There were no metal detectors, there were no police, and there were very few fights. So I know that this is possible. I attribute this to the fact that we had little fights, to the fact that we were a small school focused on radical relationship building. We had a principal who embodied trauma-informed care, and we had 3 school counselors in our building. And that's a reality that all of our students should be able to experience. However, that was short-lived. Once we changed buildings and experienced budget cuts, our internal support system was compromised and violence increased. At the end of one of our school days this past fall, I could sense that a fight was about to break out. And I kept asking the young girls in the auditorium wrapping up their hair what was going on. But they ignored me because they were too focused on their fear and their survival. I heard one of them say they brought other men with them. I quickly did a mass text to all the other teachers and staff in the building to meet me outside for support as I walked out of the building with a group of girls. And sure enough, there was a small group of young men in their 20s who were clearly agitated. And one of them had his hand on his hip, as if to signal he had a gun. Against my instincts, but out of legal obligation, I called the school police, who then called Philadelphia police. By the time I finished the call, the group of teachers already still in the building came out and joined myself in forming a line between the students and the group of men. Sorry. They formed a line between our students and the group of men that they were arguing with. Nothing but threats were being exchanged, so we still had no clue about the relationship between our students and the young men, let alone what the conference was about. One of the men, who was the loudest of them all, was specifically pointing at and threatening one of our trans students. In the chaos of it all, I kept my eyes on him and his fear and his vitriol, and I kept asking, what happened? Well, what happened? I want to hear your side. Let me hear you out. I repeated this until he finally said, you wouldn't understand. It started 2 years ago. I found an opening, so I kept pushing. What happened 2 years ago? He ignored me at first, but I kept repeating, I want to know what happened to you. I don't know you, but I want to keep all of us safe right now. And he eventually, after my persistence, after my level-headedness, he started to talk with me. And he told me how the fight started between their family members and how just 2 weeks ago there was a rumble that he and the trans student got pulled into. It wasn't even their fight. And as he shared, the other young men with him gathered around him. At one point, another young man told them, I'm from the Bronx, you wouldn't understand. And I said, baby, I'm from the Bronx too. So, be clear, I understand. I understand that the Bronx is just like Philly, and that we are hurting, and that we are afraid, and that we need change. The line of teachers and counselors walked with our students to hear their side of the story and to understand what was happening. And I stood out in the rain for 30 minutes with those young men, and I listened. I listened from my whole heart and my whole body and my whole spirit. And I shared from my heart that I didn't know them, but that I cared about them and our students. That my heart broke to see us hurt each other. I mentioned that the police were on their way, but I did not think that they were the ones to keep us safe. I felt like hard conversations like this one, this is what keeps us safe. And so while they weren't ready to mediate that day, they were able to genuinely, from their heart, make verbal commitments to not show up to the school with arms or to fight. and to call me if there was more conflict. And literally, as we shook hands, one cop car lazily pulled up next to us. I told the officers we were fine, and sure enough, the young men did not return to the school for the remainder of the year. That story feels so important because even though legally I was obligated to call the police, they still did not help in that situation. That's right. They still did nothing. And so, what I hope folks take away from that is that we were able to keep people safe that day, not because of police, but because of collective courage, and collective action, and collective care. And we have to keep doing that over and over again until we grow our global imagination long enough, wide enough, deep enough to understand what that looks like in practice.
That's right. That's right.
So join me in saying that poor students, trans students, black students, queer students, are people, and all people want to feel safe, and they want to feel seen, and they want to feel like they belong, and they want to feel like they have the capacity to grow. And that the people around them feel that way too. So let's make it happen. Let's give it up for Dr. Marty. That's my friend, y'all. Okay, right, so like Dr. Marty said, we have to step into this moment because police-free schools doesn't just mean taking cops out. It means we want community control in. We want our voices. We want our aunties, our grandmas, our papas, our cousins, our friends in these schools because we know each other. We love each other and we protect each other, right? And when our students don't get that, when decision makers don't give them that, that is organized abandonment of people. It is not coincidental. It is not by accident. It is organized abandonment. When adults sign slips and papers, knowing that they're leaving students behind, knowing that they're not getting what they want. And we're not going to let them do that anymore, right? Right? So we're going to bring up someone next who's also going to call out these mega nonprofits that are out here, sucking the life out of our schools, making profit off of our folks, sitting in mansions where they're comfortable and don't need to leave the house for weeks because they have everything that they need. Our students were forced to go home during a pandemic, had to learn from home. How are they going to do that without free internet access? How is Comcast out here sucking up all our money and not even giving our children free internet access? How are they supposed to learn? So from the Penn Community for Justice talking about pilots, please give it up for Yesenia.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, awesome. I want to start by thanking PSU for inviting Penn Community for Justice into this beautiful community that you've built. And to all the speakers for speaking so powerfully about why we need police-free schools. As Sadia said, my name is Yesenia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an organizer with Penn Community for Justice. Okay, I'm an organizer with Penn Community for Justice and a member of Socialist Alternative. Penn Community for Justice is a platform for anyone affected by the University of Pennsylvania and its healthcare system to organize for racial and economic justice. We demand that Penn immediately pay pilots to fund our public schools. As our comrade Chris pointed out at the first stop at Love Park, Penn owns $3.2 billion in real estate that it pays no property taxes on. Penn has a $3.5 billion operating which rivals the city's $4.8 billion total budget. Penn can't afford to pay pilots, but Penn and other rich institutions like Penn, like Drexel, and Comcast would rather hoard their wealth.